Stay connected. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Tim Bennett here from the Cortland Voice, and I'm here with Hannah Potts, and she's from the Cayuga Cancer Center. Hannah, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Timothy. How are you?
Good. So they do have a Cortland location, and we're going to learn more about what they're doing in the greater Cortland County area. But before we go into that, let's learn more about you. So when I look at your name, and everyone's viewing this video, we see the different abbreviations after your name, FNP, RN, MSN. Tell us about those certifications and exactly what you do.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Hannah Potts. I'm a Trumansburg native, born and raised in the local area. I'm a board certified oncology nurse practitioner. That's what those last letters stand for. And as a nurse practitioner, I received my degree at a master's level, and I also maintain my nursing licensure. So that's what all those letters stand for. I work at the Cayuga Cancer Center. I started my career as a nurse, graduating from Tompkins Cortland Community College over 10 years ago, and I'm currently working on my doctorate.
Oh, really? Okay. So what are you going to what are you earning your doctorate degree in?
Well, I'm currently studying at Binghamton University at the Decker School of Nursing, and my focus is on rural and vulnerable populations, particularly focusing on those issues surrounding cancer and cancer prevention.
Okay. So would it be that you do like a thesis or okay, so tell us, what are you doing your research on?
Right. So doctoral studies in nursing, as well as a lot of other philosophical doctorates, include coursework. So you look at theory and methodology, but then you also look at policy, and you choose an area for research. And so I'm really interested in rural communities. I'm really passionate about that, and particularly when we look at the different obstacles that those rural communities face. So rural communities face obstacles that include distance, limited resources. There's also financial concerns that these run into. And when we consider those healthcare needs, we need to think about how can we limit that disparity to improve the overall health and well-being, right? So having different locations for the Cayuga Cancer Center located in Cortland County, that decreases the distance for travel for our patients. But then rural residents also equate health with functionality, and this has been developed over time through theories and other research that I'm looking into. And when they think of health as functionality, they tend to engage in less cancer prevention activities. And so this can increase the risk of presenting at a more advanced stage of cancer diagnosis, and this can lead to higher complications. And so what I'm really passionate about is providing information to rural communities. And one of those main things that you can think about is if all of that's happening, then there may be higher rates of mortality associated with a lot of cancers. And one of those very specifically is that associated with HPV.
Okay. So what stuck out to me was, at the end, you said HPV. I personally have heard of that, but to the community, what is HPV and how do people prevent it?
Well, that's a great question, because HPV is just a name, right? That doesn't really mean anything. But when I say HPV associated cancers, then we start understanding why it's important. So HPV is also known as human papillomavirus. It's an incredibly common virus that nearly all men and women will have at some point in their lives. There's over 100 variants, but high-risk strains can cause 6 different types of cancer. The CDC estimates nearly 35,000 cases of HPV-related cancers every year in the U.S.
So different strands?
Well, there's strains. So if you think about, just various viruses. So even hepatitis, there's hepatitis B and hepatitis C. These are different strains of a hepatitis virus. HPV has various strains. One of those is going to be more high risk in terms of causing cancer than some. The majority of people, if they have HPV, will never know. However, if it's present in your body for a long time, there's increased risk of complications like cancer.
I see. So what is a symptom that someone might see to know, hey, I need to go see Hannah and the team? What would, and the rest of the staff, what would be a symptom?
Well, that's challenging. So one of the things about HPV is that the majority of people will never know that they have it. So if you can prevent it up front, that's your best step. If patients do develop changes in terms of their swallowing, they want to be seen by a provider. There's always the pap smear, that's going to be a screening for cervical cancer for women. And a lot of this starts with your primary care because prevention is paramount.
Okay, so a pap smear for women. How about for those who may identify as men or for males?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's not a lot of screening for other HPV associated cancer. So, another HPV associated cancer is head and neck cancer of
Hmm.
what we call the oral pharyngeal. That's in the back of your mouth. There's no screening for that. So, what you really want to do is prevent it.
So if someone were to, and this is just a random thought, if someone were to go to urgent care for their annual checkup, things like that, are there certain things that may be able to be seen through a scan, a regular scan, if they speak with their doctor, if they visited your convenient care or something like that?
Potentially, it's really dependent. So, routine dental health exams can help make sure there's no lesions in the mouth, for example. And your routine physical exam is actually one of the first things that's important. But if anytime you had something that was persistent or looked worrisome to you in your mouth, changes in swallowing, HPV associated cancers are also that of the penile, vaginal, and anal rectal area. And so changes in those areas or new bleeding should be evaluated by your provider.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. So, like, with obviously we're just ending a pandemic. There was a vaccine for that. There's flu shots for other things and different types of shots. Is there any kind of shot or a vaccine or anything for HPV?
That is exactly the point when I talk about prevention. So, HPV has an awesome vaccine available.
Okay.
We here in the US have a vaccine that's available that can be given to children starting at age 9 at the very earliest. The CDC recommends giving it to children age 11 to 12. And adults can actually get the HPV vaccine dependent on a discussion with their provider.
Mhm.
Vaccination helps prevent that HPV from causing issues in the long term. Because HPV is spread through contact, there's a high risk of getting it. Nearly all men and women will be exposed to HPV at some point in their lifetimes. And so, if we can prevent it through the vaccination, we can prevent cancers down the road.
Wow. Now, if someone does get HPV, does it, is there a cure for it? Is there or is it stay with you, but it's tolerated or they're able to, is that how it
Yeah.
works?
Yeah. So most of the time, your own immune system will knock down HPV. However, those high risk strains have the potential to actually affect the cells of the surrounding tissue where they're sitting. The HPV vaccine
Hmm.
helps your immune system fight off that virus so that it doesn't develop into long term late issues.
Gotcha. Okay. So after watching this video and learning about you and learning about HPV and vaccines and all those things, if someone wants to hear more, how can they do that, Hannah?
I'm glad you asked that because there's so much information out there about HPV, and you want to make sure that you're getting a reliable resource. So
Yep.
you can always go to the cdc.gov. They've got great information about HPV, about the vaccine. That's one of your best resources. But if you want to learn more and have the opportunity to interact with other practitioners in the local area and talking to primary and be able to ask some questions, we're holding a virtual seminar on July 8th at 5:30 p.m. and you can register at cugahealth.org/HPV-seminar.
Okay. So what I'll do is, and this is for everybody watching, we're gonna have that link. We'll put that link into the description of this video so that you will be able to follow up, whether with Hannah or her staff, and be there on July 8th for that seminar. Hannah, anything else you'd like to say to the local community?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me, Timothy. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you and get to talk to you about some of the things I'm passionate about. You know, our rural communities have a lot available to them because we have such great health systems in the area. But if we can help prevent cancers, I would love to be out of a job. All right. So if you're interested in more about HPV, I hope you can join us.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, you'll always have one with all those abbreviations, whether it's the family. You definitely are. You'll be good.
All
So
right.
once again, thank you for working with us, and to everyone watching, thank you for choosing the Cortland Voice. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Stay connected. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.